links to the other video hosting platforms. So what happened was another Jusse Smollet type of situation, where some volleyball player says people in the stands were jeering her or were making comments about her, and so the school just immediately reacts and like got somebody and permanently banned one participant from attending the sports events without any evidence. They just picked some guy and banned him. And then later it comes out, it's like, everyone's got like cameras going the whole time. Like there's like high definition coverage from people's cell phones. Like you gather up all these people, will send in their data, you can timestamp it, you can make a continuous video and you can listen to it. And you're like, yeah, nobody shouted any epithets at this volleyball player. She lied. Like she just completely lied. There's no shortage of high definition recordings in stereo with high quality audio, and like, yeah, we can filter out the cheers and we can listen. It's like, yeah, nobody said anything, or at least you haven't proved it to any conclusion, any beyond any standard. And so you look at the university, it's like, oh yeah, sorry, we banned this guy. We'll unban him. But it begs the question. It's like, did you see you ban some guy without any due process, without any evidence whatsoever, just because some girl said she heard epithets coming from without any evidence? It's like, everyone has their cell phone on. It's like you're going to be able to find people with cell phones. It's like, shouldn't the burden of proof be on the moving party, not on the defendant? Like, this is the English common law system where the burden is on the accuser. But no, they just banned somebody anyway. So that was the story. It's a Jusse Smollett story. Now here's the thing: is something like the vast majority of those stories are Jusse Smollett situations where a black guy will paint a crooked cross on his truck because he wants a GoFundMe, and he doesn't notice, like, yeah, your neighbor's got 1080 high definition night vision cameras. The cameras caught you coming out of your own house with a spray can, painting that on your own truck, and then going back inside your house. It's clearly you're on camera the whole time. Like, your neighbors have those little camera pods, as like half the neighborhoods do. To do this kind of stuff nowadays is more and more difficult because cameras are everywhere, including at a volleyball game. There's going to be a few people who are just going to film it for the heck of it, just to put it on Instagram, which is what happened. And nobody was saying those epithets, or at least the cameras didn't pick it up, which doesn't prove or disprove anything. But again, the burden is on the accusing party. And you should stop and say, like, maybe we shouldn't jump every time someone has a Jusse Smollett accusation to just accept it as the word of God, because as it's turned out, almost all of them, in fact, all of the ones recently, are hoaxes. They are like, they are spray painting these crooked crosses on synagogues and things. But then you look this on the security camera and you see, like, the guy who did it. It's like, oh, that's Moshe Greenblatt. He's I don't know, he's an anti-Zionist Jewish guy who's very political, and he's spray painting the thing on his own synagogue type of thing. It's like, oh, and he literally, like, he's got the kippa on in the high definition security camera footage. It's like, oh, so that story just gets disappeared. And even to bring it up vaguely makes people uncomfortable, but you go, like, yeah, this is most of the stories. Those cameras are everywhere, and it's like, it's always a hoax. It's always a parishioner of a synagogue doing it to his own synagogue, or a black guy who wants to GoFundMe doing this kind of stuff. A Jusse Smollett situation, or a volleyball situation, where there's cameras everywhere. Nobody in 2022 at a college game, I guess, was shouting the N-word at you. What's the color of the sky in your world where you think that happens? This isn't like the 1950s. This is 2022. Cameras are everywhere, and the school just jumped on somebody and kicked him out without any evidence. That should terrify you, that people are, like, there's a string of these hoaxes and people are still so quickly to jump on board and believe it. Now, here's the thing with stimulus response, where people don't stop and think. It's like they hear the word fascist and they have the same knee-jerk response because Hollywood has brainwashed them for the past 60 years to think it's a negative term, which is like, they don't. I'm not saying things are negative or positive, or events happened or didn't happen. I'm saying you have to stop and think. Don't just stimulus response, hear word, then respond. Like, no. Let it go to the cognitive centers of your brain to think, oh, am I being manipulated by Hollywood here? Am I being manipulated by the media who's pushing a Jusse Smollet type of narrative? Which is exactly what happened with the University of Oregon, who was shouting F the Mormons during some game. You know, like, why would they shout F the Mormons anymore than they shout anything else? It was because of the Jusse Smollett situation with the volleyball player, where they heard the original story that allegedly some guy in the crowd in 2022 is shouting epithets at a black volleyball player. Never happened. But they believed it because they're sheep. Their stimulus response, they're not thinking, they're not asking for evidence for it. Like, they just heard the news story. It's like, why would you believe anything the media has to say or the government has to say nowadays? But they never heard the retracted story, or it wasn't exactly a retraction. It was a follow-up where they said, yeah, the university investigated, couldn't find any evidence of it. It's like, you can't disprove it exactly, but it's like, she's the only one who says she heard it, and there's thousands of people there, and probably dozens of people have, you know, high quality audio recordings of the event. In fact, the school themselves is recording the event, and they went through all the audio. I mean, they spent hours going through all the audio, and they didn't hear it, but she heard it. It's like, well, it probably didn't happen then, so she's lying. But it goes out in the media that, oh, some like, how gullible, naive do you have to be to think in 2022 somebody is shouting that at a game? That's insane. That the media would even report it, like, without giving some very careful Jusse Smollett type of warnings of saying, like, yeah, we're gonna wait for the audio to be reviewed before we report this story, because there's just been too many fake stories where the black guy is painting a swastika on his truck, literally on high definition cameras. Like, yeah, your neighbor's having you on camera, buddy. Oh, I guess I'm caught then. Yeah, but the follow-up story doesn't get the media. It doesn't have the media reach that the lie is halfway around the world before the truth puts its boots on. Those retracted stories, they don't have the same media coverage, and the media knows this. The media is not the media anymore. Anyway, so this is why a bunch of 20-year-old idiots, they hear a story and they just start reacting to it without even thinking. It's like they're in college and think, like, when I went to college, I studied science, STEM, right? And we were taught how to think, not what to think. And that was what professors were openly saying back then. And, the science is a little bit different. But even, you had to take humanities classes too. And it's like, yeah, it was going to have a liberal narrative, but, like, you were still, this was a long time ago, you were still free to think differently. And, like, I remember one thing, this was a while ago, where they were talking about the Indians in an Indian village, and this was long enough ago where the thing is, it was still woke, but they were honest about it. They were talking about what the Indians did to each other and did to other people, the atrocities that Indians would do, the brutality of the Achilles heel treatment. They would take female sex slaves and then cut off one of their Achilles heels to cripple them so they couldn't escape. It's like, that's horrific. And, like, you got to be honest about looking at the good and bad of history. It's like with the Dahomey tribe, with that movie that came out, The Woman King. It's like, yeah, they were slave traders, both internally, externally. And they also had a lot of human sacrifice. Oh, yeah, actually, slavery in Africa existed before European contact, during European contact, and after European contact. Oh, we're just gonna skip all that. I mean, that's another video I'm actually probably gonna do next, because it brings, like, that movie, The Woman King, if it brings attention to that aspect of the slave trade, that's all for the good, to kind of let people know, like, yeah, you've been sold a bill of goods by Hollywood for the past 60, 70 years. And like, Hollywood is the same people who, cheer for Weinstein and go take flights to Epstein's Island to struggle, snuggle children and, women and children. It's like, they're the worst people on earth, and they're the ones who control the narrative for the past 60 years. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next episode.